to tell you,
There you go.
I do presentations all the time, but I usually do them to groups that have invited me to present, and they do all the logistics and hosting, all the organizations. I just have to turn up and do it. But this one is the first time I'm doing one, marketing it, doing it myself, promoting it on LinkedIn under LinkedIn events. I'm a LinkedIn coach and trainer, but I don't generally promote events on LinkedIn events. So one of the best pieces of advice I can give you if you are considering doing that is you need a partner. So my awesome partner in this, and the only way I could make this happen, is the amazing Tiffany Pavelka. You want to give him a wave, Tiffany?
Hey, everybody.
Tiffany is just like the power behind the throne, if I want to call myself on the throne, but she makes it all happen. She has a business advising companies, supporting small businesses like ours to be more successful. And I'm lucky enough to get her help for this event today. So if you need any help with your business, setting up your business, you should talk to this lady because she is awesome. And one of the things that Tiffany is going to be doing is, do you want to do that picture? Wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Tiffany is going to take a picture of us to use for social media purposes. One of the things that she remembers to do that I'm likely to forget. So if you want to, make sure your camera's turned on, if you're willing to be visible. If not, make yourself invisible. And go ahead. She'll give the countdown for us to smile and do the picture. Over to you.
All right, sounds good. Well, welcome everybody. So nice to see you. Yes, if you have questions or have anything going on the background in the chat, you can message me with anything. I'll be here to help. We've had so much fun putting together this masterclass and would love to celebrate. And so we'd like to take a quick picture, like Sandra was mentioning, to celebrate this session on social media. So on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to, well, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, but smile, and then I'll take the picture. Okay. All right. So on the count of 3, let me get my little thing ready. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just going to capture that. Beautiful. You guys look great. So, all right, over to you, Sandra. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. And I'm seeing some awesome stuff come in the chat, and I'll be looking at that in more detail later. Just be aware you can save the chat too if people put things in there that you want to follow up on. I hope as you have a learning, something that comes to you that you want to make sure you do, go ahead and put it in the chat. Commit to do it. We'll connect with you and we'll take a look later. So I'm going to share my screen. All being well, you can see my screen now. So I'm going to be talking about relationships matter, utilizing the power of LinkedIn to grow your coaching business. And when Tiffany was helping me put this up, there were a few places where it was too many characters to put the whole title in. So it just became utilizing the power of LinkedIn to grow your coaching business. But, it has to have relationships matter, because that's my approach to using LinkedIn. It's not just about numbers and selling, it's about relationships. And that's one of the reasons I love working with coaches, is because you tend to be all about the relationships. That's important to you. Very few of you are just in it for the sales. You want to grow your business? Absolutely. I am going to give you a lot of information today. Take what you can and leave the rest for now. It may be overwhelming, and I want you to just take 1 or 2 nuggets and move forward. If you're more of a beginner, there will be a couple of beginner ideas for you. If you're advanced, I believe there will be a couple of advanced things for you as well. So a little bit about me. Who is this crazy lady doing LinkedIn training and coaching? It's like, isn't that supposed to be young people that do social media? Who is this old lady doing this? Well, like many of you in coaching, I expect you've had a number of different careers. Once upon a time, I was a theater director. I used to make people look good on the stage. Now I make them look good on the stage of LinkedIn. Once upon a time, I was a teacher. Once a teacher, always a teacher. So my approach to LinkedIn now is very much about teaching you how to use it. I had a long career at the University of California, the education system. And I thought that was my job until I retired. They had other ideas and they pushed me out this maybe little too comfortable nest. And who knew, but I discovered I could fly. And I got to reinvent myself and create this amazing job that is my dream job. It combines all the wonderful things that I've done and loved in the past and work with amazing people to help them get comfortable on LinkedIn. I specialize in what I call social media for the socially reluctant. So if any of you are in that category and you're a little kind of queasy about putting yourself out there, bragging, promoting yourself, all that type of thing, trust me, I understand how you feel. I used to think it was more of an age-based thing, but it really isn't. All those young people also, they just want to do their job. As much as they seem to be comfortable on Instagram and all the rest, they really are not comfortable about promoting themselves. And really, you should have to take branding 101 in high school because you're going to need to brand yourself throughout your professional career. So those of you, just to mention, there is a special offer for those of you who sign up for a consultation. You'll get a checklist, a self-scoring checklist about going through your own profile to evaluate it. And all of you who have signed up today will get the recording or access to the recording. So I'm just going through my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. So those of you who are coaches will understand this work in particular. And you need to look inside before you promote yourself outside. Now, notice on the bottom right of the screen, there's a little camera with a heart. And that's a reminder, if you want to remember some of this, an easy way to do it is take a picture with your phone. You can also take a screen capture, whichever is easier for you. If you use your phone, don't use it vertically, turn it, use it horizontally, and take a quick picture. You can even share that with something you've learned on social media, but just for your own use, go ahead and do that. I do that a lot when I do webinars or attend webinars because it's hard to take notes fast enough to remember it all. So let's look at the internal work you need to do before you get worried too much about what your LinkedIn profile is all about and make improvements. So think about why you're on LinkedIn. Is it just to be able to connect with other people that you meet? Is it to sell your services? Is it to promote your thought leadership? There may be some of you for whom it's important to get a job. And you can do more than one of those things, it's fine, but be clear about why you're on LinkedIn and what's most important to you, because you're going to make decisions about what you do on LinkedIn and what you show based on that. What do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for your work that you're doing as a coach or whatever your business is? Do you want to be known as an amazing salesperson? Do you want to be known for a nonprofit you work for? And you know, you've got a business, maybe you work a full-time in a job, but you also do some work on the side and you want to promote that organization. So just be clear what it is you want to be known for. Who do you want to find you? I guess most of you would say your ideal client. Well, then you need to be clear about who your ideal client is. What words would someone use to find you? Now, okay, I hope that coach for most of you is going to be one of them. But if I do a search for coach, I am going to show up health coaches, exercise coaches, all kinds of things. So be aware that you need to be specific. You're going to have several keywords, and that's going to really help you when people want to find you. And then what action would you want someone to take when they do find your profile? So they get to your profile, they're looking at it. What do you want them to do? Just recognize you're awesome? Okay, that's a good start. Do you want them to look at your website? Do you want them to connect with you? Do you want them to contact you? Book a consultation? Go ahead, tell them what you want them to do and make it easy. So that's a good start, and coaches are very familiar with having to do the work behind the work before you get started. So I've seen some of your profiles and I have my own opinion, but this is a truth moment for yourself, thinking about your own LinkedIn profile, looking at it if you want to do two things at the same time. On a scale of 1 to 5, with one being, I think I remember my password. I'm not sure. My headshot's probably about 10 years old. I don't know. Through to 5, which is, dang, I think I'm pretty good. I just dropped in today to hang out with some other awesome coaches, and maybe I'll pick up a tip or two. So, and 3, obviously somewhere in the middle. So go ahead and put in chat where you think you fit in that. And that just kind of helps me also gauge my presentation a little bit too. I can see 1 or 2 of you already that I know are darn close to that 5 level and are definitely in the thought leadership category. And I can see others that are maybe still working on it. And many of you, of course, I don't know, but you know I'll be looking after, right? So go ahead and let me have a look in the chat where those numbers are coming in, 3 to 4, 3.5. So 3s, a lot of people in the middle there. Good. And I would guess that probably is pretty accurate for most of you. So thank you for sharing. It takes a certain vulnerability to kind of admit where you are or where you think you are. And sometimes when people say they're like a 1, they're really not that bad. And people who say they're a 5, and I kind of look them straight in the eye and I go, you know, I'll be looking right. And their kind of number goes down a little bit. But it's good to have an idea of where you think you are to get started. So these are the basics. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these. So a photo. You need a good headshot. It should be a professional looking headshot. Ideally, you have it taken by a professional photographer. But if not, if you get it taken by a friend or you have your phone, you know, cameras and phones are awesome, but it needs to look professional looking. And this is your brand. This is your image. It should look like you. It should look like you on a good day, not your best day, not your wedding day, not your kid's wedding day. I'm sorry, you're never going to look like that again. But, you know, so just have to get over it. You're representing you as you are right now, as you walk into a Zoom room, into a meeting now. So you want to look professional. No weird things in the background, not cropped from another picture where you've got someone's arm around your shoulder, not a whole body. If you've got a body shot of you speaking or something, use that for the background banner, but not for your headshot. It's called just head and neck, and look professional as part of your brand. And ideally, no more than 2 to 3 years old. I have people say, oh, but I look just the same. I'm sorry, it's a little difficult, but maybe you do, maybe you don't, maybe I would still recognize you. But, you know, really no more than 2 to 3 years old. Now, a professional headline, that area right under your name is called your headline. It's not called your job title. The default on LinkedIn, if you don't uncheck a little box, is to go ahead and put that headline and the company right at the top. You are so much more than that. And this is your place to strut your stuff. You definitely want to have the word coach in there if you are a coach, because this is a primary area for keyword search that immediately identifies you. But you also want to have your area of expertise. What makes you stand out? What kinds of expertise do you have as a coach? This is going to help people know if they want to connect to you, if they're the kind of person they want to work with. When you participate on social media, you like and comment, your name and headline show up. It's free advertising. So make sure you're clear about what it is. And go ahead and add some kind of tagline if you like. If you are more than one thing, if you're working for a company and you're developing your coaching business, this is a primary place where you can kind of show both of those things. And if that's something of interest to you, I can show you more examples. So your about section, and I confess I did look at some of your profiles before I began today. And a few of you that may have considered your profiles pretty darn good, I want you to go back to the drawing board, because 2 things. 1, the about section should be written in first person, not third person. This is not like your website or your bio, where Sandra is an experienced LinkedIn trainer and coach and she works with. No, it's you. You know, I work with professionals to transform their LinkedIn profiles to get the results they want. You're communicating yourself, your energy, your expertise, first person. Also, LinkedIn has changed things. They're going to be changing again, actually, in the next month or 2. Some people already have it, but it only shows the first few lines before you have to click on see more. If you don't grab my attention, guess what? I'm not going to even bother to read the rest of your carefully crafted about section. So number 1, first person, and 2, pay attention to those first 3 lines. Your job history. You want to have some of your job history. You don't have to go back to the beginning of time. For some of us, that's a very long time ago. So I, for example, don't have my teaching and theater experience on my profile just because it's so far back. I reference it because I think it's relevant somewhere in my profile, but not in my actual job history. So go back as far as is relevant for you and what you want to show about your background and expertise. Your education, have it there as appropriate. You're going to have one of your most recent education showing at the top of your profile, but you don't actually have to show it if you feel it's really not relevant. But you want to have it in your profile. It does add a certain credibility, and most of you have pretty darn good education. Your skills, you can have up to 50. You should take advantage of all 50. It's great for keyword search. And you can change the order. Now, I don't care about the order of all 50, but the first 3 that show are important. So you can choose what shows in those first 3. And a lot of times, because of the way LinkedIn's craziness added skills, and people were endorsing you for skills you didn't have. And so your first 3 skills may be totally irrelevant to what you're doing now. So you may need to go in there, add some new ones, delete some, and change the order. So do pay attention to that. Your contact info at the top of your page is a little thing that says contact. I can't tell you how many times I'm working with a client and they've got their old contact information there, a website for a company they used to work for, an email related to another business, or sometimes an email that's kind of not professional. What was it? One guy had rockstar@hotmail.com, besides Hotmail being considered very outdated. It was not part of his professional brand. No, he wants to keep that email in the back end of LinkedIn. You always want to have all of your emails in the back end to avoid getting duplicate profiles, but you want to make sure that the one you want people to see is there. But guess what? Not everybody sees it. Only your connections see it in general. So if you want people to be easily able to reach you, also add your contact information to other places, maybe your about section, maybe your experience section, maybe both. Make it really easy for people to reach you. If you don't want them to phone you, don't put your phone number. If you prefer they email you, great. If you'd rather they connect with you on LinkedIn, that's okay. Tell them that. And then last but not least, and this one, I'm actually going to do a whole couple of slides about this later, because connections, how many connections, who you connect to is really important, but you need a certain number of connections. This is what I call the basics, and all of these things together. If your LinkedIn profile says your expert status on the dashboard, they're going to change that. Actually, some people might already not have that, but it used to say expert. It just means it's all the basic sections are complete. Doesn't mean it's good. Sorry, don't get too excited, but it's a really great start. But most of you probably feel, I got the basics. I got them down. Yeah, maybe I could go and tweak them a bit, but I can't tell you how many people could do with tweaking those basics. But now let's talk about enriching it, adding credibility. And don't forget, that little camera icon is a reminder. Go ahead, don't be afraid to take a picture if there's something you want to just take a picture of instead of having to remember to take notes. So enrich it, add credibility. Most of you probably have credentials. You have ICF credentials, other kinds of licenses. There's a whole special section on LinkedIn to add them. Go ahead and do it. Some of you have publications. You might be authors of books, or you have just done other kinds of publications. There's a place to add that. You may even want to add it in more than one place, because the publications and some of the sections are way down at the bottom of your profile, and you might want to add it there and point it out a little higher up as well. Associations. If you're a member of ICF, ASTD, other kinds of associations, add them. It does a couple of things. It adds to your credibility. It also, when you go to connect with somebody else on LinkedIn, it will show what you have in common, and it's a great conversation starter. So add that in. Volunteer work may be appropriate, especially, of course, say you're on the local chapter of ICF and you're on the board helping to put it together. You might want to add that to your volunteer work as well as your associations, because it shows up much higher, gives you more visibility, added credibility. And there are other kinds of volunteer work that it helps us. it makes you more human. It helps us get to know you. I think there's a couple of connections I have maybe here today, and they're involved with dog rescue or cat rescue or something. And, don't you just automatically, I don't know whether you can see, I've got my companion keeping me company today, supervising. So people like that human touch. Now, if he barks, I won't like that human touch so much. Recommendations. You need to be collecting recommendations regularly, at least one a year, maybe more. If you're starting your coaching business, you want to collect at least a few to show that credibility. And just get in the habit of doing it. Somebody says, oh, thank you. You changed my life. This has just been so amazing. You say, oh, I really appreciate that. Would you mind mentioning that and a recommendation on LinkedIn? I mean, you can copy the recommendation from LinkedIn to your website. You can even take the picture with it. You can't do it the other way around, though. So get recommendations and give them. When you give a recommendation, you show up on that person's profile. Free advertising. And it's a nice thing to do. It's a generous thing to do. Your name and your headline show up on their profile. So it's a win-win. So now you've enriched it, you've added credibility, and maybe most of you are saying, I got most of that down. I could maybe do a little work in the recommendations area, but I got most of this down. But now I want you to add some pizzazz. And this is where most of you can do it. I know, I see Elena, you're laughing there. You're a lady with pizzazz. You've definitely got this. And Sarah and Jeffrey, my gosh, you've got pizzazz. So these are some things that when I talk about pizzazz, I don't even know, is that a real word? It must be a real word, but I love pizzazz. So, and I'm going to show you a very untidy screenshot of some of these in a moment. But I wanted to put it in a list like this so it was easy for you to either take a picture of or make notes from. A background banner, a company page with your logo. Creating your own company page with a logo on LinkedIn is free. It's easy. It takes maybe 5 minutes to do a basic one. Then you're going to get that nice little logo showing next to your company name instead of that gray box. We call it the tombstone box. It's like two little gray squares, two little squares inside a gray square. I see coaches coaching for 17, 19 years, obviously successful, but with the gray tombstone box. So please make sure you've got a company page. New things, pronunciation added on LinkedIn just recently. Now it's intended for pronunciation, and for some of you, we might need help knowing how to pronounce your name, but it's 10 seconds. And I know about you, but it doesn't take 10 seconds to say most people's name. So you've got room there to add a little marketing message. And all of these things, if you go to my profile, you'll see examples of this, and I'll show you a little picture in a moment. But when you do the pronunciation, you've got to do it on your phone, but it plays on both your desktop and the phone. No excuse not to do this. It's so easy to do. Kind of communicates a little bit about you. A cover story is also new. Most of you will probably not ever do a cover story, but I want you to know what it is when you see it on someone else's profile. Again, I'll show you an example in a moment. Featured section, you've done a video, written an article, being featured somewhere. You've got an awesome website. Your website needs to be social media sharing friendly. There's a technical term for that, which I don't know, but basically if you share something, a link from your website, and it looks ugly on LinkedIn, it's not social media sharing friendly, and you need to talk to your web person and use that language. And I'm sure they can translate it for you. So you definitely want to add featured and services section. This is a great opportunity for you to have additional visibility. People who are not connected with you can send you a message for free to ask about your services. Some of us have had this for quite a while. It's rolled out recently. They say to everybody, but LinkedIn, they lie. I'm seeing that it's not available to everybody yet. I just saw it rolled out this morning to one of my realtor clients. And I don't see that commonly with most realtors. So still rolling out, but if you've got it, take advantage of it. So these are some examples in a very messy looking slide format. So let me point out a few of these things. If you see at the top of my profile, I've got a little orange ring around my picture. That means I have a cover story. So even if you never do one, you're going to know what it is. You click on the person's profile with an orange ring. When you go to their profile, it plays 3 seconds of video without sound. You click on it, it plays 30 seconds with sound. And ideally, you're going to add captions as well, because just sound and video, often people are listening in a place they don't want to play the sound. So those of you who are comfortable with video, you should do this. Please, you can be very creative with it, but don't, I beg you, do this, what I see all too much of. I am Sandra Clark and I offer services in. If you're stiff in front of the camera, I'd rather you didn't do it at all. But if you can communicate a little bit of your personality, what it's like to work with you, the warmth, the trust they can feel in working with you, go ahead and consider adding it. Now, some of the other things, can you see my top banner? I've got it branded. Now you can do this yourself using Canva, the free design tool. I'm not that clever creatively in these ways, so I usually pay someone to do it for me. I'm getting a little better, but you can have it branded, or you could simply use a beautiful picture from a site that provides free images that's related to you. If you're coaching, maybe it's a people in a group, maybe it's some sort of an aspirational thing, somebody standing on a mountaintop. Maybe it's a kind of someone with the meditation stones or something all balanced. Something that communicates what it is you do. So add a background banner. 3 websites I can recommend that have free images, although you have to poke around to find them. Pixabay.com. Maybe Tiffany, you can add that to the chat. The other one, unsplash.com. And another one, which I love because it has diversity in it. The other sites tend to be very Caucasian centric, but the one that's quite diverse, it's called nappy.co, not .com. And you get a lot more diverse pictures there. Those are great for if you're writing blogs and articles and you want diversity, a great resource also. So those are things you can do: your background, your cover image, your LinkedIn company, your LinkedIn company page. So that you will show a logo next to it, your pronunciation, you're providing services, all of those things I mentioned on the previous slide. These are just kind of examples of where they show up. And then the featured section, bold and visible right in the middle of your profile, videos, articles, posts, all kinds of amazing things. Go ahead and take advantage of adding something to the featured section. I know you've got something, so please add. I know you are people with pizzazz, so don't hide your light under a bushel. I want to see it. So I promised, when I was reading back through the description of what I promised I would do for you today, went back through to make sure I was kind of keeping all those promises. So I did talk about several mistakes. I was going to say mistakes that I see. Mistake number 1. Do you remember the old Kevin Costner movie, Field of Dreams? Build it and they will come. Like, it was a baseball field. I'm not a sports person myself, but I love the movie. My equivalent is let it sit there and think they will come. If you build a beautiful LinkedIn profile, and I mean, it's perfect. It looks gorgeous. It's got all the right keywords. It's really great. And then you just don't do anything with it. One of the biggest changes on LinkedIn in the last few years is they want you to be active on the platform. So if you just build it and then don't do anything, they put it in long-term parking. Okay, we'll leave it over there so it doesn't get any dings or dents, and we'll just leave it parked there. You want that car to get dings and dents. You want to be active. So you need to be active on LinkedIn. You can't just make it pretty and think that they're going to come. So what the heck am I doing showing a picture of a sock with a toe poking through? Sometimes people will say to me, oh, there's no opportunities on LinkedIn. I never got a new client. I never got a job. And this example I'm going to tell you about is a story about someone who got a job. It could have equally have been an opportunity. And I tell it just because I love this story. This person wrote me a really lovely traditional recommendation as well. But the story she told me, she couldn't do it as a recommendation because it would have linked her name and her husband. It would have called out her husband, who's part of the story. So I started working with this person and she was a little reluctant. She said, my husband is telling me this is a waste of money. He said, if you get an opportunity through LinkedIn, I'm going to eat my sock. She says, okay. There's fighting talk there. So we worked together. We made some changes. We changed her activity. A month later, she wrote me an email and she said, I got to tell my husband today to eat his sock. and she had just got offered a great job, exactly what she wanted, in the right industry, doing the right work. She was absolutely thrilled. So was I. And I love this story. As I say, I love her traditional recommendation, but I love her story even better. She allowed me to write a blog about it because that wouldn't call out her husband, because there was no names used to protect the guilty. And a year later, she wrote to me again. We stayed in touch. I don't always stay in touch with all my clients, but we stayed in touch. And she said, guess what? I just got to tell my husband to eat his other sock. She had just been offered a new opportunity, a new job in Hawaii, of all places. And she said, I'm packing up. I leave in a month, taking the whole family, and we're going to go live in Hawaii. I've got this new opportunity through LinkedIn. So again, it's not a client opportunity, it's a job opportunity, but I just love the story so much that you get this one instead of a client story. Some of my clients, I need to get them to tell me more fun stories about this, and then I can use them as well. So what I'm seeing with a lot of my clients and other people is LinkedIn is constantly changing. It drives us all crazy. If it drives you crazy, I got to tell you, me on it all day. I have to take a deep breath on a regular basis. I have a group coaching program, and I start the program by, we take a deep breath, and I say, I don't care, it's not for you, it's for me. I need this deep breath because LinkedIn is constantly changing. It gets buggy, things happen. I think I mentioned earlier that there are some new changes rolling out on LinkedIn. Most of them seem to be more visual, how things look, like 4 lines instead of 3 lines, things like that. But it really throws you, and a lot of people give up because they just say, I just can't deal with this craziness. I'm going to give up. Don't give up. Just take a breath and realize that it's still worth it, even though it drives you crazy. So this is my magical mystery formula for LinkedIn success. It's really hard. It needs to be complete. Remember all those basics? You need to fill in all those sections. Have it complete. Not so hard. I'm not talking about the pizzazz. I'm not talking about the added stuff. I'm just talking about the basics. You need your keywords, and your keywords can be scattered throughout your headline, your job title, your description, your about section, your skills. But you want those keywords in there so you show up when we do a search for executive coach or life coach or something. You need a certain number of connections. Again, I keep telling you I'm going to talk about that. I am, but it's so important. I'm going to leave that, but you need a certain number of connections. And you need activity. I need lightning bolts sort of pointing to this one, because activity is the huge thing that makes you visible. And LinkedIn loves you and people love you. And all of those together give you maximum visibility and high search engine optimization, SEO ranking. Now, we usually think of SEO for Google, but it also applies to LinkedIn. And also, if you write articles don't get much visibility on LinkedIn, but they are searchable. Google searches will show up your articles there. So if you've got articles on LinkedIn, don't feel they're a total waste. So people want to refer you. Please make it easy for them. Sometimes I work with somebody, I think they have an amazing service, and I go to their profile, and their profile is so bad that I feel embarrassed to connect somebody to that profile, because I don't feel it represents them well. It doesn't represent me well. So make it easy to refer them. So connect generously with people and let them see who you are and why they should want to connect with you. As I get on the roll with this, I'm just going to make sure. Oh yeah, I knew I had another point about this. One of the things on your LinkedIn profile is people want to connect with you, not your company. Now you may say, well, I'm on LinkedIn to promote my company. Well, guess what? I don't buy the company. I buy your services. And you happen to work for a particular company. Maybe it's your own. I don't care. I'm buying you. So make sure everything on your profile is reflective of you. Coaches in particular, it's true of everybody, but particularly, they need to be authentic. You need to represent who you are and more about what you are. So now we get to mistake number 2. And this is related to what I was just talking about a little bit. And it's not written with your target client in mind. So if your target client is a busy executive or an overworked single mom, write with them in mind, everything from the words you use in your headline to the types of things you post. You want to be authentic. That word gets overused a lot these days, doesn't it? What the heck does authentic mean? Like, be real, be you, be honest. It's okay to share a little bit of yourself. For some of you, that's maybe really appropriate. If part of the type of coaching you've done comes from a really difficult background, you may share a little more personally than some of the rest of us. But at any rate, you need to be real, and it needs to be you, not your company. Be interesting. That's a two-edged sword, isn't it? But try to be interesting. I think your friends would think you're interesting. Ask them what they find interesting about you. Share more of that. Be engaged with others. Have you ever learned this trick? If you're a little bit shy or a little bit of an introvert, you go to a networking event or a party, and you go to someone and you ask them about themselves. Oh, nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. And you spend the whole time just listening to them. And then you hear afterwards that they told somebody that you are the best conversationalist in the world. I was like, you haven't said a word. You've listened. This is true for engagement on LinkedIn, liking, commenting, sharing, being engaged and active with other people. They will think you're amazing even before you open your mouth and say a word. Now, write for a person and a computer. And so the reason I say this is the algorithm is going to find those keywords. So you definitely want them there. But those words are hopefully just going to bring people to look at your profile. So that's where you want to make sure you're writing for a person, that they're going to be interested and connected and hooked in. So do go ahead and think about, writing with your target client in mind. So now we get to, as promised, LinkedIn connections. The size of your network matters. So, okay, I'm thinking that probably most of you don't have less than 100. It's a double negative. Does that work? Probably most of you have more than 100. But if you have less than 100 connections, you're only visible to about 5% of the LinkedIn population. Now, 5% of over 500 million is still a lot of people, but it really limits your visibility. Finding people, you'll go to reach out to someone that says, LinkedIn says, you're too far away from that connection, or you find you can't find a connect button. There's a little way around that, but you need a decent sized connection number. So over 500 is what you call the benchmark. Now, if you've got over 500, you're essentially visible or findable by 95% of the LinkedIn population. But I'm sorry, 500 in general is not enough if you're in business on LinkedIn. So in general, I recommend that you have at least 30 connections for every year of your age. Now, I can see some gray hair out there. So I'm guessing that for most of you, that's more than 500. So calculate your own numbers. Don't panic. Some of you may well have exceeded that. But the idea is you want to connect to people you know, people you'd like to know, people who know people you'd like to know. So stretch a little beyond your comfort zone. Don't connect to just anybody. Always, when someone asks to connect with you, look at their profile. Do they look respectable, professional, credible, have a decent network? Because there are, unfortunately, a lot of bots on LinkedIn. You can go to a vending machine in a couple of countries and pay for followers and connections. So there are automated programs, automated fake profiles on LinkedIn. If you connect with them, you're now adding your credibility to them. And maybe somebody says, oh, well, I'll connect with this person because I see Sandra's connected with them, so it must be okay. Be careful. They may have just wanted to grow their network, connected wildly, and have connected with a bot. So respectable, professional, credible, but stretch beyond your comfort zone, because that is going to mean huge differences to when you want to be visible, when you want to do activity, or you want to be found. So LinkedIn and getting found on LinkedIn and getting business leads, you need to increase your visibility. You need to strut your stuff. You need to show those beautiful feathers. I know it's the male peacocks that have the beautiful feathers, so I need to find a female equivalent as well, but I just love this peacock. So posting on LinkedIn. Now that activity, remember I told you about that activity? Activity is so important. Liking and commenting. If you never post on LinkedIn, but you just liked and commented generously, you would get great visibility, even without writing a word. So if you can only do that, you know, that's a great start. If you're going to post on LinkedIn, and I'm guessing a lot of you do, who sees it? In general, when you post on LinkedIn, only 10% of your network will see something that you posted. Now, that's why having a larger network is a good starting point. So 10% of 10,000 is better, more people than 10% of 500. Now you can increase that number from 10% to more like 25%, essentially by that engagement. Because once you teach the algorithm that you're active and engaged, you get rewarded by having your stuff come up more, meaning just shows up more, people engage with it. So it's not, so you grow the network. I had one of my clients tell me the other day that I grew my number of meaningful connections by 4 times in the month after working with you. And I already have a new client. I can't always guarantee you're going to get a new client, but there's a really good chance if you grow the network and or you start becoming visible. Now, occasionally something will go viral, and that gets exciting too. So I got word from one of my favorite clients. I get to work with her regularly, so I have a lot of favorite clients, but she said the notification from my post went viral. It got well over 8,700 views. Now, the reason we call that viral, you say, well, what is viral? This woman only has 1,371 followers. So when she got over 8,700 views, obviously that's well beyond the size of her network. And so generally speaking, what we call viral is when it's much larger than the size of your number of connections. It's hard to do. You can't guarantee that that will happen, but it can happen. And if you think of it as just anytime it's more than the size of your network, that is awesome. So what should you share? Oh, there are things that are appropriate for you to share, and there are things that are not appropriate, and there are things that work for sharing. So if you post a pretty picture, like on Instagram, there's this beautiful picture, you might get a lot of likes, but you're not going to get much engagement, and you're not doing much to build your brand, but it can work. You definitely want to, if you are someone who has personal stories for yourself, for your clients, that is a part of who you work with in coaching, that kind of more personal type of exposing your stories and your vulnerability, absolutely, that's appropriate. It's going to vary from person to person. So for example, I know people who swear in their posts on LinkedIn all the time. That's their brand, that's who they are. Do I love it? No. Would I do it? Probably not. But you've got to think what's appropriate for you. Some people share humor on LinkedIn. Sometimes their humor is an acquired taste. Gee, I've been told my humor is an acquired taste. So got to be careful sometimes with that. I actually did get into trouble for that one time where people misconstrued what I said. So definitely post what seems appropriate to you. There are many different kinds of posts. There are text posts, image posts, text plus image posts, document posts, video posts, poll posts, and a few others. I've got an article on my website. You can always search my website by topic in the top search bar and find things I've written. I try to keep them up to date so they're still relevant. And in general, I recommend you post what you're comfortable doing. Yes, there are things that get more visibility, but if that's not what you like to post, don't do it. Right now, the youngest, what I call the youngest baby of the family in LinkedIn polls get the most visibility. You'll see tons of polls in your posts. Last year, document posts were the youngest child, and they got the most visibility and love. But all of them play a part, and you have to choose what's right for you. Now, something came out recently on LinkedIn, not what to share, this one, creator mode. You may have seen this. You may have been say, do you want to turn creator mode on? Yes or no? For most of you that I know or know of, I would say in general, no. You probably don't want to turn on creator mode. And if you don't understand what it is, definitely don't turn it on. You're welcome to reach out to me and ask what it is, and I'll explain it. If in general, let's say if you have over 5,000 connections and you regularly write a lot of content on LinkedIn, so you're kind of building, you want to be seen for what you write. What you write is more important than necessarily who you are. It's a strange way of putting it a little bit. But if those criteria are true for you, then maybe creator mode is right for you. In general, most of you know it makes it a little harder to connect with you because it puts follow as the primary option. They still can connect with you if they know how, but it makes you feel important that it says follow, like some big name influencer. But for me, for example, I don't want any barrier between making it easy for someone to connect with me. Now, there are some other advantages to creator mode that may be worth it, and I may change my mind. But in general, for most of you, I don't think it is. Now, one of the things I mentioned about when I have my little picture of taking a picture of different screenshots and sharing them on social media. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to use it as an example. If you share your what you've learned from something I taught today, and you posted it on LinkedIn and you tagged me, we can also call it @mentioned me, I get notified. And because I get notified, I go and comment on it. So if your network is smaller and I comment, I'm now sharing it into my reasonably large network. It's about 6,000-7,000 followers. I don't have it as large a network as some people in my industry for reasons that are specific to me. But if you do that, I'm happy to share your content with the others. But whether you share it with LinkedIn publicly or not, what I'd love you to do is share in the chat what you are going to do this week on LinkedIn, not just in general, because that's as coaches, that if you give people an inch, they take a mile. So I want you to commit to something that you are going to do this week on LinkedIn. And I want you to put that in the chat and commit to us that this is something you are going to do. And I'm going to take a look. Okay, I love this, writing recommendations, sharing screenshots. This is awesome. Okay, so I got just a few more things to share with you. Mistake number 3, I said there would be 3 mistakes I'd share. So this is one. Some of you coaches are a particular target, in a good way and a bad way, for people trying to sell you services to grow your coaching practice. And you'll see, 6 figures in 6 weeks types of promotional things. One of the things those types of programs often do is using external automation programs. Please don't, if that's what they're doing, please don't do it. It's against LinkedIn's terms of service. It can get your account tagged, flagged, or suspended. Any external automation program, what LinkedIn has learned is they can't legally go after those companies and make any headway, but they can go after the individual user. And if your account gets taken down, it's quite hard to get it back, and it can really devastate you. One of the other things that flags you is connecting with too many people at once. Now, sometimes what happens after somebody like me doing an event like this, I'm going to connect with a lot of you. And LinkedIn might flag me as that's too many, even though it's perfectly legitimate. You were here at this event, I'm reaching out to connect with you. So sometimes, again, people lie, you have to be careful. People will say, so long as you only connect with no more than 10 people a day, that you're safe. I would say probably you're safe. I won't guarantee it, because LinkedIn changed that. They don't have like a rule that if you go somewhere and read the rules, if you only connect with 10 people a day, you'll be safe. They'll, in their terms of service, they'll say, don't connect with too many people. So just be a little careful. Having other people log into your account. Now, many of you may be large enough in your business that you have assistants work with you. And to do that, they maybe do some posting for you or manage something for you when they log into your account. If they do that and LinkedIn catches it, you can get your account suspended. So you need to use a VPN. I'm not going to go into what that's because I don't really even understand it, but just be aware there are dangers to having to getting external help. So just be careful because I care about you, and don't come to me if you get into trouble. I will give you sympathy, but no, I can't help you get out of it. Often I can calm you down. I can peel you off the ceiling. I think that's what I've done for one of you lately. So I also mentioned as a kind of bonus thing, some of you are more than one thing or need to be more than one thing on LinkedIn. You have a full-time job and you're growing your coaching practice. Maybe you're planning on the coaching practice eventually taking over being your primary thing. I got to work with somebody while she was doing two things. And then January 1st, this past year, we got to put an end date to her job, which she'd given her notice in, and move her coaching to the top of her profile. But for many of you, you may never do that. You may always do things. So be aware that when you add your coaching in, it will move it to the top of your profile. And you may feel, oh my God, I don't want my employer to think I'm leaving. You can drag it into any position you want. If it's a current position, you can drag it into the right place. Use keywords that apply to both your outside job and your coaching business. You can, if appropriate, remove the company name from showing at the top of your profile. Therefore, your headline becomes the primary things showing both businesses, but the company name doesn't show at the top. That's a new thing that LinkedIn just added in as a possibility pretty recently, and that may be an appropriate option for some of you. And I wrote an article 5 years ago, when you want to be more than one thing on LinkedIn, and it became the highest source of SEO to my website and remains it to this day. So because there's so much interest, I keep that updated. I have a training video on it, which I will be updating soon. LinkedIn keep changing and updating, so it makes it really hard to keep on top of that. But lots of tips if you're in that category of more than one thing. So I am going to let you know a little bit about the services I provide. A lot of this stuff you can and do yourself. In fact, I see somebody there and I use some of her posts as examples of what to do. Yes, I'm talking about you, Elena. There's lots that you can do on your own. But if you need my help, I do profile optimization. I do it with you. I don't do it for you. I'll help tweak, I'll help wordsmith. I have a group mastermind program. So really a small group, maximum of 12 people, usually less than that, where it's just about supporting you once a month, posting content. My pricing is going to go up next year. So if that's something you think you're interested in, join now. It's a subscription program. You can drop it whenever you like. And the pricing will stay the same if you join now. And I also do, if you say, you know, I've got most of this down, but I need a little help with some specific stuff, I do specialized targeted consulting, depending on the amount of time that it takes. So please, if you're interested in any of those things, you're welcome to reach out and connect with me. I hope you'll connect with me anyways, because I'd love to get your thoughts about my presentation today, but also just about your coaching practice and your needs in general. Now, I've asked you already to share one thing you learned today in this, well, what you're going to do in this webinar is sort of related. So if there's something that you've learned today, in addition to what you're going to do, something you've learned, go ahead and put this in the chat and or feel free to post it. And if you want to download the chat because you want to remember who was in it, the things they said, you can click on those three dots, download chat and save it, and use that to go back and remind yourself. And please do reach out, connect with me, talk with me. I am going to have Tiffany stop the recording now, but I'm going to stay on for a little while in case there's any questions you have. I'm happy to stay around to answer those. So Tiffany, you want to stop the recording?